my first question, I mean, you've coached so many voice actors and
Hmm.
you've seen it all. What is the one thing? Because I'm sure you've noticed some people get it right away and others
Yeah, it's
struggle.
yeah, it's a great question. I teach a class that I came up with after years of training folks with different backgrounds, and the course itself isn't called Civilian into Artist, but what I teach is that. And what I noticed is the main um, strength that you have as a voiceover artist is the ability to tell authentic story, whatever medium you're doing voiceover in. And the question is, how do you get to your authentic self? And getting to your authentic self involves letting the barriers of your civilian self fall away. We're all socialized, we're educated, we're socialized with all these sort of fit in conventional filters that we have. And what makes an artist is your ability to express how you feel through story. And because of that socialization as a civilian, you're even if you're trained as an actor, hopefully that gets rid of some of that or at least puts it to bed. But really, what gives you success as a voiceover actor is your ability to let down the wall, let down that civilian wall and reveal who you are. And a lot of it, people talk about personality. Reveal, I want more personality. I want more authenticity. Great. Well, what does that mean and how do you do it?
Yeah,
And the answer to that, your personality and who you are, is not who you think you are. That is an illusion. And I can explain that in more detail if you want, but that's an illusion who you think you are. And I'll tell you, yeah, I actually may give you the story that led me to that conclusion, but who you are is what you express emotionally. Your emotional life and self is who you are and who you are in the relationship. And as commercials, especially in voiceover, is a conversation between two real people that you generate, your authentic self comes from your ability to connect and reveal who you are through your emotional self. Does that make sense? So,
absolutely.
I mean, I'll give you this little quick little story. So, on the way to teaching
Please.
voiceover one day, very cold night, some ice on the road. I was getting out of my car, and I saw this elderly lady in front of me, and she slipped, and I caught her, and she said, "Oh, thank you, young man." And immediately in my head, of course, I said, "You're very welcome." But immediately in my head, I had this resistance. And because my idea of who I was came up. Well, I'm not a young man. I mean, I guess I was a young man, I was relatively young. But I was like, no, I'm not a young man. I'm a voiceover teacher. I'm an actor. I'm a dad. All these ideas of who I thought I was came up. But then I immediately realized that in that moment with that lady, all I was a helpful young man. So I realized the truth of your authenticity comes from the presence of your relationship. The truth of your authenticity comes from the presence of your relationship. So whoever you're talking to, so for example, right now, the truth of who we are right now is a result of this engagement, even if you're just listening. You know what I mean? So we are creating an authentic presence, and your emotional self is the only thing that's real right now.
Wow.
Does that make
Wow.
sense?
A
Yeah.
hundred percent. Now, how do you,
Hmm.
here's the thing. I find, for having done it for so long, it becomes easy to drop that. You kind of get
Yeah.
that sort of head voice coming in where it's sort of you try to direct yourself. Everybody battles with that. But in the beginning, sometimes people can't see that that's usually what's driving the car most of the time. How do you drop that? Like it's so easy to say, but like from the inside looking out, it's not so easy to actually do. What does that look like? What kind of exercises could somebody do to
Well, I
reveal
have an
themselves?
emotional exercise. So, you know, um, and I also have that, and I'm actually building a course that can help people with this, like a video course. So, watch to come in the next 6 months. So, it actually helps you realize, first of all, it's awareness, right? So, you
Mhm.
have to be aware of where you are And whether you're in your head or not, or whether you're coming from that place you're talking about, right? That operating system that keeps trying to give you an impression of who you think you are.
Yeah.
And so it's part of it's meditative, right? You just have to let go that idea of you and try to stimulate the emotional self in you, right? So the way I do things, sometimes I listen to music, or I'll listen to a recording of my daughter at one point, or something that stimulates me emotionally, makes me playful, because that's the place you
Ah,
want to start doing voiceover from. Your
yeah.
playful state, right? So
100%.
times that I'm not present, and as you say, I'm locked into the announcer and the idea of, oh yeah, Noel has a sound and this sound works. And I go, oh, no, that's not relationship, right? That's the guy at Best Buy who goes, hey, I'm Noel. Welcome to Best Buy. How can I help you? And you're like, you can't help me because you're not relating to me.
Yeah.
You've got to create that relational, emotional your relationship and that emotional self. So you've just stimulating that, right? And you get him back into playfulness so that you're in this place that I am now, and not the place of like droning on and talking to people like I'm an automaton, and the words in my, I'm an authority on this. And immediately I can tell energetically that you move away from me,
Uh-huh.
right? My job as an artist and as a teacher and a coach is to stimulate that in you, but also keep connected to you so that we're in a relationship that's meaningful. As soon as it's not worth it.
Wow. So like if you're dealing with
Yes.
someone that's kind of moving away sorry, did somebody
No, go ahead. No, no, no,
have
no. I was going to say the other thing I do for is the emotional exercise. So I do an emotional exercise. I teach this, and it's what you do is you want to work on different emotions you have, ones that are easier for you and ones that are harder for you, and you practice them in a measurement technique, 1 to 10, right? And you do that every day to stimulate and measure your emotional expression. Sorry, man, but
No,
that's
no,
how
that's
you build
great.
your
I love
personality.
that. And actually that prompts another question. When you're
Hmm.
working on those emotions and to keep them authentic and real, are
Yeah.
you thinking about past experiences that might bring those up? Are you looking sort of at, that emotional wheel you can find to see like different
Yeah, yeah.
emotions? People have
It's a
trouble even
great
naming them.
question. As an actor, so now I'll speak to you as an actor. I was kind of quite method, even though I trained in England and I studied in New York. Uh, I was quite method for a while, until I really did myself emotional harm by playing a very twisted character. And my therapist afterwards said, you have mild PTSD from this because you prostituted your memories too strongly.
Wow.
And then I started working differently. So I work from a very different place now. I actually channel emotions through the character and my emotions through the character. And I don't, again, the idea of I've kind of let go. But having said that, I still do use slight triggers to trigger me into things if I can't get into it. You
I
know what I
see.
mean? And
Yeah, yeah.
either in voiceover or in acting. But it's mainly just opening your heart. It's trying to practice, and that emotional practice you do every day can do that. So that if you practice opening your heart, and the toughest emotion to express is joy, it's the most vulnerable emotion to express, right? It's awe, it's not excitement. So if you can work on being vulnerable and just feeling, and it's, like, I'll give you an example the other day, like Billie Eilish at the Oscars, right? That song, what I've what have I become, or you know what I mean? What am I made of? What am I made of?
Yeah.
I mean, it so struck me. I like it just struck me the way she did it, and I've been listening to it over and over again because it's triggered something deep in me emotionally, and I'm connected to it, and it keeps me in my emotional self, which is where I want to be. And it was such a generous bio that you gave of me, and it's like, and I'm listening to it, I'm like, oh my God, I do all these things. But at the end of the day, I say thank you, and I put that on the shelf, and then I make sure that I show up 100% right now as me, you know?